Rivalries in sports just make it mean more. It's as simple as that. In League of Legends, for whatever reason, the rivalries that we have really aren't all that tense. I don't know why that never developed. I mean, it obviously doesn't help that many of the teams that were in the league that did have some of the biggest rivalries are no longer here, but it still doesn't compare to the level that we have in sports. Take Florida. This past week, we beat up on FSU. We were both trash teams, to be very clear. While we clearly have our star quarterback of the future and things are looking optimistic for us, Florida State had one of the worst years that they've ever had in the history of their program, given their expectations. It did not matter, because when we showed up and beat their ass and then planted our flag on their logo in midfield after the game, a fight immediately ensued. And this was tame relative to Ohio State, Michigan, which saw people getting pepper sprayed after the game just to try and calm down the rivalry. I don't care what anybody says. Some people might be like, oh, that's taking things too far. Bullshit. That is hatred at its finest, and I love it. There are going to be people that disagree with me in League of Legends and saying that I want to see rivalries like this. I don't care. I want it. Sorry if you don't. It's not like we haven't had attempted tries at this whole rivalry thing. One of the most famous sponsors that we ever saw in League of Legends was under that whole premises. Newer fans might not fully remember this, but there was a period in time where BMW sponsored many different teams across the LoL esports ecosystem under the tag United and Rivalry. The thing about rivalries, though, in League of Legends was that it always just tended to be the top teams, which is fine because a rivalry at its core, for the most part, is a rivalry between fans. And the best teams in the game will always have the most amount of fans, most times. And while I will give G2 and Fnatic the credit that it deserves, because I believe that both of those fan bases definitely hate each other, as was evident by the fact that Carlos, despite how much he's hated in the scene, for understandable reasons, would put clauses in players' contracts to make sure that they simply could not go to Fnatic. That's a level of pettiness that, while yes, probably shouldn't be allowed in contract law, I respect the pettiness of it. I do. I don't care what anybody else says. That shit's hilarious to me. Be smarter with how you sign your contracts, people. Come on now. But why do I bring this up? Why am I talking about rivalries in the middle of the offseason when we've got no games going on? Well, there are two new players coming to League of Legends in North America that actually have a bit of a budding rivalry that I want to talk about, because I'm learning about it just as much as everybody else. One of the top prospects for a while now in North America has been Srtty. Top laner. He's played for FlyQuest Academy or Challengers or whatever they want to call it at this point. It's gone anyways. I thought that he was probably going to get his start in the LTA last summer when it was the LCS on Shopify or some other team halfway through the year. He's been playing well. People have been hyping him up for a long period of time, but for whatever reason, didn't get his shot. But this year, he is starting on Dignitas, notably with Rigby as his coach, who has historically done a pretty good job of developing younger players. I am excited for this, but notably, we don't have that many rookies coming into the league this year, which makes sense before people freak out and say, like, oh, why aren't we promoting North American talent? We are seeing the consolidation of 8 teams down to 6, plus 1 for Disguised Toast because they're in like that provisional slot. But we are seeing the consolidation of talent. And whenever you didn't have Fudge playing at the end of last year, it makes sense that we have a few more players that are kind of filling into slots that didn't have them otherwise. So I'm not ultimately all that mad that we don't have that many rookies in the space. But the one other rookie that just recently got announced is a name that those in Tier 2 know, and this will always be funny to me, but Tier 1 people probably don't remember it or never really heard of it. Scary Jerry. No, not Scary Terry.
I'm Scary Terry. You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
Scary Jerry. ADC for Disguise this upcoming year. And I was very critical of Disguise when they were building their roster so far, that all the pieces that they were laying out really didn't interest me all that much. Abadage, as much as I'm a 100 Thieves fan, and I hope he does well at Disguise, I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and say that it makes me all that excited. Castle getting another shot, well, great for him. And I've talked to some people within Immortals as well that are like really excited and hyped on him. That's fine. You can be. For me, he's got to prove himself before I can get excited about it. XU, I'm happy, is finally getting another shot. He did get screwed by Dignitas last year whenever they just decided to go belly up everything. But it just, I don't know, something about it wasn't clicking for me. And even whenever Scary Jerry got announced for them, I was like, okay, well, the squad as a whole, still, like, they're realistically competing for 6th at best, maybe 5th. right? Like, they're not going to go all that far. So I need something else to pull me into this. And that was whenever somebody tipped me off to the fact that apparently him and Srtty have a bit of a rivalry going. Now, I haven't found any clips of them explicitly saying that, like, they hate each other or anything else, but we do have one of Srtty post getting into Dignitas, post like having a spot on an LTA squad, hearing that Scary Jerry's getting in, and saying this.
Like Brazil, he choked really hard. NACL finals, he choked really hard. Like when he versed us. Collegiate finals, he choked really hard when he versed me again. I think he's talented. Like when I verse him in scrims and stuff, he plays with intention, and that's like a lot more than you can say for a lot of NA players. Like he's actually trying to do things, but I worry about how he's going to work in LCS because like he's like a massive pothead apparently. I feel like that might cause issues for him.
First, what is this, 2012? Really? Pothead allegations? Come on, bro. You could do better than that. There's so many other things. Like outside of this clip, Srtty went after multiple people and like called them out. Tenacity for apparently managing people's OnlyFans accounts. He went after certain other players for other choices that they've made in their life. I don't want to get this video demonetized, but let's just say Srtty has a bit of a mouth on him. And I kind of like it, not gonna lie. But what he said about Scary Jerry and him being an international choker, I was like, okay, well, he's tier 2. We just had our first international event. How bad could it have been? It was bad. To give you the full context behind these two and their rivalry, at least last year from what I've been looking up, Scary Jerry was notably the ADC for Maryville University, which is the team that ultimately got signed by Brandon Sanderson, notably Dragonsteel. They're one of the best collegiate programs that we've ever seen, and they had their own slot in the NACL. So we got to constantly see them play up against FlyQuest, who Srtty was a part of. But Srtty also played in the collegiate level too at St. Louis University. So we would see these two go up against each other multiple times, of which Srtty got the win in spring of NACL. Summer, before NACL finals, you have collegiate finals, of which Srtty gets the better of Maryville University and Dragonsteel again. So he's 2 for 2. But then Scary Jerry and Dragonsteel come back and win Summer and qualify for the international event against Brazil and Mexico. FlyQuest Challengers misses the cut. So it's the first time, okay, you're saying Scary Jerry, he's finally, on the up and up. He's getting that chance. Then, bam, loses to Brazil and finishes 5th in the Americas Tier 2 international tournament on a team that was the #1 seed for North America coming in when we spent all this time bragging that we would never lose to Brazil and that we're just the better region, and you go and do that? Are you kidding me? Yeah, I understand the choker label being assigned there, and I'm glad Srtty called it out. We can't be having that shit. Are you kidding me? But while it is Srtty directly going at Scary Jerry, it's not like Scary Jerry is just this quiet player who's sitting there taking it. Clarky, who runs the Maryville University program, tipped me off on Twitter to the fact that, yeah, Scary Jerry's a pretty confident guy too. He's willing to run his mouth if need be. Now, granted, we have not seen him directly respond to this clip, and I'm hoping that me publicizing this and me making a whole video about it maybe gets him to respond. That'd be a little nice. What I love about the dynamic of these two is now, even if I'm not excited for Dignitas or Disguised, as teams as a whole, I am very excited to see these two play each other anytime they can. Because as I said, I'm a fan of rivalries. And I think the best rivalries don't just include the fans going at each other. It's no secret that I don't like Cloud9. And that stems from the old Optic Gaming days because of a player rivalry specifically between Aches and everybody on Optic and the Optic fans. A player legitimately hating the fans of an organization publicly, loudly, and it played into it so well. C9 embraced that, and you know what? That rivalry has existed ever since. The question becomes now, when both of these two players get on the biggest spotlight, and when Srtty's clips become a lot more viewed than just the 10 people that saw this prior to me posting this video now, are they still going to run their mouth in the same way? I pray to God so. Because one of the lessons that we should have learned from APA this past year, and the many other pros, including Whippo, talking their shit all season long, is that it gives you narratives to go off of. And these two having a history together, even at tier 2, and now getting to see that history bud up into tier 1 as well, is exactly what we need for teams like Disguised and Dignitas to start building brands around these players, assuming you keep them long term, which is a whole other conversation to be had. But at a minimum, I'm happy that we actually have a rivalry between two teams that aren't necessarily the best. Because if Florida versus Florida State showed you anything this past week, same thing with Ohio State and Michigan, it doesn't matter if a team is bad or not. If there's a good enough storyline and two people hate each other, it will be close no matter what. Because you have that extra motivation to just say, fuck this guy, I don't want him to win. That right there is what I love about sports, what I love about esports, and what I cannot wait to see develop between two young players in this region.